Welcome, One Love family, to the Seth Guru podcast on the Makers Bar Network, where we are creating 1 million leaders and bringing them to you today for tomorrow. So in the field of technology, there's AI, and then there's AI professionals. And today we have one of those professionals with us to talk about a couple of the different aspects. But in that, there's also Black excellence, as I brought to you in my first part of my series about redefining what Black excellence is. Some of that is in talking about the fields that we as people of color have not entered, or, pardon me, or have entered, and it's not much discussed. We have one of those professionals who's at the top of this field, who's going to give us a little insight to that today, and some of the sales. He's going to go over his origin story and his journey and why that is a portion of what Black excellence is. Please welcome Glenn Sandifer. Glenn, thank you so much for joining me on the Seth Guru podcast. How are you, sir?
Thank you, Seth. I'm doing well. Thank you for that introduction. And thank you to your audience for the time.
Absolutely. Well, there's so many layers that we can cover as a podcaster, as an AI strategist, insecurities, and as an author. There's several layers I really feel like we can cover. But why don't we start with your origin story, Glenn?
Okay, origin story. So in previous 20 years, I've been running sales and field marketing programs. Most recently, I was a senior executive leader within the security space, where I first became exposed to how AI works with AI agents for outbound and inbound prospecting. I've recently done around 200 million in kind of SEV contracts over the previous 5 years, and built around 1 billion in total pipeline of sales. Through that, I've also been a consultant. I've been a fractional consultant for a number of different organizations. And there I focus on accelerating demand generation, lead qualification, client retention, sales enablement. And that's through the brand GSC, or Glenn Sandifer Consulting. And then I'm an author. I wanted to be able to put my own story out there about dating, how I went through a bad breakup, how the work I needed to do, and I wanted to help individuals get great dating outcomes in a modern world. And I've been fortunate enough to release 2 books, parts 1 and 2 of those same titles, that have had some moderate success over the previous 4 years. Because of that, I started on a journey of podcasting. I've been privileged to be on lives or podcasts for about 200 different shows since 2022. And I just see that I continue to contribute to a number of different organizations here locally, where I am in the city of and surrounding area of Nashville, Tennessee. Origin story, kind of long, but that's who I am. But how I got here is probably the part that people would love to talk about, and we can talk about down the line. Yeah.
We like to get into that. I gotta say, so what the audience doesn't know is that Glenn is extremely funny, and as some of you have seen, already, you know I am not one that cannot fall for humor, and Glenn definitely is humorous. But Glenn, you know what I'd like to be able to get into right off the bat, in the AI field, there's a great deal of fear and concern, and I think. Before some of the stuff that I know is going to have me kind of giggling and so forth, but I'd like to talk about in the fear of AI. What is that about? Why are people fearful? And I've spoken about this with a couple of different guests before, but some of the concerns that people are fearful about with AI, what is that about?
So the fear on AI is replacement. So most of us can kind of remember the movie Aliens, and then Terminator. So when I say Skynet, most people of our age and ilk know exactly what we're talking about, where artificial intelligence will take over the day-to-day functions that are typically human-based, and we're uncertain about those outcomes. What we're seeing in our industry and what I've seen with clients is, because of that, there is a fear of 2 things. The first is, if I don't deploy AI, I will get left behind. My business will get left behind. And because of that, there is a lot of fear and uncertainty in corporate boardrooms, with corporate leadership, because they don't want to get caught on the back foot, not having an answer to the street or to their owners. What are we doing with AI? So that's the first piece of fear. The second piece of fear is individual contributors, individuals that put fingers to keys, that are out there doing tasks. We're constantly being bombarded with videos and messaging that AI is coming, so get prepared. And it's not just about some of the soft labor skills where it's replacing legal, sales, marketing, and some operation efforts. We're now starting to see autonomous robots that are now being touted in Asia and in parts of Europe that are replacing service-based roles. And so with that, there's just an unhealthy fear that I'm going to be left behind. Now, what I have done is I have said I'm going to take the responsible approach. And in the areas in which I am qualified and capable, it's going to be sales, marketing, client success, retention, demand generation. We use agents. There's not one brand that has not considered or is currently deploying automating their customer success teams, their customer service teams, their lead qualification, their appointment setting, their service follow-up, their billing or invoicing, and then their renewals. We all can probably look in our email inbox the last 30 days and see that something was automatically sent to us and doesn't require a human touch. The thing that I believe we have to do as leaders is we have to help the market understand that even though AI is coming, we are still in the business of people. We connect people with products and services. And if you try to remove too much the human touch or connection, you actually don't get ahead of your competitors, you fall behind. And the clients that I've had and the accounts that we've serviced, those that understand the human touch are actually winning at a consistent level. Those who do not have the human touch or have removed it for a cost-cutting measure have found that long-term, they're not going to give the efficiencies that they expected.
Now, when you say the human touch, I think that's one of the biggest portions of the conversation, part of me, that people are concerned with, is the removal of the human touch. How are we going to be able to keep a personal feeling with the competitive nature of AI and or the usefulness of AI being able to take over some of the responsibilities of what the human used to do?
I think AI should be used in business today. If I look at the 5-year roadmap, today it should be used to augment and improve functions. So if there are repeatable, outsourceable tasks that you have, if you have a person doing them, can I shift that person to another function day to day? And if I shift them there, will they have better job satisfaction and will we have better results? Most small businesses, so businesses, honestly, and how I look at and where we kind of target are anywhere between 5 to maybe 50 million in revenue, they still have human touch all over them. And adding AI helps because they're not replacing a person anyway. They're moving a person. So someone who would be at the front desk for check-in and registration and pulling information is now able to support with more back office support, follow up for clients, appointment reminders. Those things are still important. But our large multinational businesses, they are finding in a hard way that by making this change to AI to replace the human touch is not leading to the efficiencies or the results that they expected, which was increased profitability, increased margin. So when I say profitability, we mean margin, and then increased retention. We're seeing the opposite. And customers who are humans are going down market to smaller companies if they have the opportunity because they prefer that touch.
So some of the fear is misplaced, that the loss of the human touch, some of that fear is misplaced?
No, I don't think it's misplaced. I think it's there's just always a natural evolution of business. So we don't have telephone operators. We don't have phone book companies that manufacture. We don't have certain things that we don't have, chimney sweepers and window washers that are ubiquitous. You have to go out and find those services because they used to be a part of street sweepers. We have automated things that do that. We don't have 3 garbage men on the back of a truck. We may have 2 if we're good because there's a mechanical arm. So I think that the fear is misplaced because I believe for the first time in history, it's touching white collar jobs. So white collar jobs used to be looked at as kind of the beacon of, if I can get to that, it won't be backbreaking, it won't be laborious, and I'll be able to just ride that off into the sunset. I believe the deal model with corporate has changed. The deal model with corporate used to be, get your education, come work for us, entry level. I've talked about this on my show. Your 20s are supposed to be hard. You're supposed to learn, grow, develop, take awful contracts, awful opportunities, and then you get your great opportunity to run a big project or lead a team as you get to your late 20s, early 30s with corporate. Now we're seeing that where it used to be 3 to 5 years for individuals staying on jobs because of COVID. So everything is now since COVID, post-COVID era, people are switching every 2 years. And so the deal model around that is I have to gain new skills and get new opportunities as I move between different organizations in order to make myself a more well-rounded candidate. In the past, you were able to in corporate, you're not going to retire with a pension, but you could retire from corporate for 35 years. If any one of us look at our LinkedIn, we're seeing people thanking God for another year. This is year 36. Thanking God for another year. This is year 28.
It's true.
And it's like,
true.
I see that on my timeline. That's over. None of us are going to be able to say that. If you have been working in corporate America in post-COVID era, I'm just going to let you heard it here first. It's not going to be that. It's unless you are working for a small business that decides to stay small and you go into corporate, you are going to move around unexpectedly. And so that is kind of where the fear comes. I thought this was a good deal. I thought my job would be safe. I thought that if I became specialized in this area or function, that I wouldn't take my job or it wouldn't be outsourced to another country. That is another big part of this. This feels the same way as outsourcing happened in the 90s to a lot of people, where their jobs that were considered to be consistent and available are no longer available. And that is going to be the reality of AI. But again, people are going to have to reframe their expectation about what they get from corporate, that it may not be, I'm at Meta, I'm at TikTok, I'm at Alphabet, I'm at Oracle for 25 years. There's no path to do that anymore.
It's very interesting. I kind of want to backtrack. You getting into this field, and we as people of color, and when we're talking about Black excellence, this is not typical for us to go into this as a field. What really got you interested in being in this field? Because as a nerd myself, I was into DC Comics, Marvel Comics, and we see some of the technological advancements in our comics of the future. But we were kind of secret as Black people who were really interested in technology. What got you interested?
So technology has always been an area of interest. But this wasn't my corporate choosing. This is kind of what has happened to me. I really thought I was going to be an owner operator of a large QSR, because through high school, all through college, and even grad school, I worked for this company every year full time until I went into full time work. And what I found is that as I did that, and I kind of fell out of love with that brand and fell out of love with that process, I went into technology and I worked for, at that time, Samsung, which was growing as the brand of choice for all technology solutions for consumer products. What I found is that I was spending my free time in Best Buy, at Radio Shack, and I was learning all of the different connections. Yeah, all of the, I know, that's clock it, young people. But at Radio Shack, learning all the different connections, all of how things work. When I was growing up, my mother used to say I used to take things apart, like computers and TVs and monitors and things that we had in the house, and just to try to put it back together to understand it. So I've always had kind of a love for technology. But how I got here, it's well documented, is I got into security because I had a contract. So I had a
And
contract
explain
where,
security, Glenn, real quick,
yeah.
if you don't mind,
Mhm.
backtrack a little bit and explain security so people understand that field,
Yeah.
that
So
portion of your field.
the security industry is, you touch it every day and you don't realize it. It's almost like the oil industry, oil and gas industry, and everything you touch has oil byproducts in it. But when you enter a building, most jurisdictions have some type of code or requirement for that building to exist. Hospitals, schools, businesses, office spaces at a minimum. So security is about protecting the things and assets of people and your vendors through different means. And the means are typically going to be people through guard service or manned hours, or it's going to be through a technology solution such as cameras, intrusion, access control, fire, CCTV. So when I talk about security, I ask everyone, just think of it, because I've been a part of the brand. Think of ADT for your home. Security for your home is making sure that you receive an alarm as a as when someone enters your home or when someone does something they're not supposed to do. And now security has become an integrated model that takes technology and takes people and merges the two. In our space of security, we are finding that AI over the past 10 years has been integrated into every piece of technology, every software. So you have AI without even knowing it. If you have a security system and you're able to set a perimeter around your building, and anytime someone comes through that perimeter, the cameras come on, that's AI. And then if that AI is able to make and do facial recognition, do size and scope to see if it's a human, an adult human, a child, an animal, what type of animal, or an insect, a car versus a pickup truck, license plate readers. That's all a part of the security industry.
And so security typically is about protecting so you're not hacked. This is what I get as a general Joe. When you talk to security consultants, how do you protect your information? How do you protect your data? That's some of the
Mhm.
stuff I think about. But security reaches far beyond that from your field.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind elaborating a little bit further on.
Yeah. So the cybersecurity even now is just, let's protect the infrastructure that I have of my hardware and access to the internet. So access to my data. So I want to make sure as a business owner that I have the infrastructure in place to protect us from cybersecurity threats through viruses, ransomware, et cetera. That's the piece I think most people understand. And there are a lot of fly by night companies that they do 25, 30, $40 million a year in revenue because it's a recurring model. The technology piece is, I want to be able to see what's happening in my business at any given time. I want to provide access to a certain area within my business, but I want to exclude access for other parts of the business for certain people. So that's where the access control comes in. For everyone that's still an employee, when you take out your badge and it has the long cable on it and you put it on the door so you can get into the door after hours, or even if it's on the main floor, that's access control. That access control goes into a system, and that system is then either being monitored by AI or monitored by a human. And then they can say, Seth has access to this door. And he comes in, and then they say, good morning, Seth. If you go in and they see that you have access, but you shouldn't, they will stop you. So that's how access control works. And that is an example of integrated guarding. We have the access control point, we have intrusion on the front door, we have a guard. So that's a man person with man hours that's sitting there monitoring the system. And then they're able to provide intercept so bad things don't happen to good people.
Now, and you're providing for protection, is some of the guidelines you can give people when they're looking for protection for their personal businesses and securities. What would you suggest? I'm hearing a great deal of my podcast colleagues talk about VPNs. Pardon me, VPNs. What would you suggest?
Yeah, a virtual private network, absolutely. I think everyone needs to have a VPN, because there are a lot of threats out there that try to get in through phishing, through spam, and through malware and ransomware. So those four things are what you typically have to protect against. We don't have a sponsor for our show for that yet. I'm hoping that they will soon make themselves available. I do have a couple of brands that I recommend to clients to have at a minimum. And with that, all it's really simple. We go in, we download it. So on your computer, if you have a server on site and you have other pieces of equipment on site, we can add it there, and then we can monitor it through one or two different systems. But everyone should have a VPN, because that VPN allows you to protect yourself even when you're offline. So if you're someone who travels internationally, you need a VPN. If you're someone who works out of a Starbucks or a co-working space, you need a VPN. You're someone who is like the new people are on the boat 30 days and then they come off because they're you need a VPN. I'm saying these are real discussions that need to be had, because you don't want to set yourself up for failure. It's when you work in corporate, there is a VPN. There's a CloudStrike. There's a Microsoft. There's something that's on every.
I don't think people really get it sometimes.
Oh yeah, when you have to log in, when you have to go log in and do two-factor authentication on your personal or work provider cell phone and log into something, there is a virtual private network that is created. When you go on site to, say, a business location, I'm here in Nashville, so let's say I go to Sony Music, they have a VPN. They get me access to the internet, but it's limited in scope, and I can't touch anything except getting access to the internet.
So VPN protects the individual while they're online, and I'm really wanting to separate this information so people can process it the way me as a novice. So virtual protection network. So I get that. So while I'm on the internet, and this will come back to the agents, I am protected from my data being taken, or what is the
so the language is around encryption of data. It scrambles the data so it makes it unreadable. So for this video, for my end, this portion is scrambled because I have a VPN. So if someone wants to come in and hack and join the call, they're going to have to get government grade encryption in order to break it. IP masking, internet protocol masking, is if you have your Spectrum, or you have Xfinity, or you have AT&T, or you have Google Fiber, every piece of device that you have connected to the internet has an IP address, as does your modem. So your modem and your router also have an IP address. Those get masked so that hackers cannot access everything, every piece of equipment in your home or you when you're on the internet. So those are the two things, and those are the two main reasons that you want to have a VPN. And like I said, you want enhanced privacy on your search because you're doing financial transactions. If you're someone who is in specific locations and you don't feel confident about the Wi-Fi, you want to make sure you have a VPN, because even though you'll be on their network, your IP address will be protected.
Now, so how do we tell the difference between what's a quality VPN to get as far as protection? Because I notice a number of them, and I'm kind of hopping over a couple of these things, but this is important. I found this myself interesting to know. How do we know which VPN networks are the better ones to get that are for protection? With you as a consultant, what should we be looking for? What should we be looking for?
You want to make sure that you have with the VPN, the first is you want it's government grade encryption on all of your devices through that. You want to make sure that it has the ability for you to also add multiple devices. It should also have a cyber component that covers your email addresses for your company. So you can do one for your family, you could do one for your company and all your employees, so that phishing and ransomware will be flagged by the provider, and then it'll be communicated back to the authorized user or administrator to say, hey, this looks suspicious. We went ahead and we quarantined this. Then you want to make sure that you stay away from the free ones. You want something that has a cost to it, because anything that costs has a real value. If it's free, they're looking to get more information on you. So never sign up for.
I don't think a lot of people know that. I don't think. No. I'm glad you said that. I think, Glenn, if you don't mind, go over that a little bit, because everyone here is free and they think good.
Nothing that we have is free. Facebook is not really free. They're selling our data. We're the product. So when you have a free VPN, even though you are masked from the outsiders, your data is being prepackaged, repackaged, and then sold to data brokers. So they will then know, all right, Glenn and Seth like to use StreamYard. They have talked about these things on there. We were able to pull that off from the microphone. This is something that may be a good target for their demographic. So I don't want to share that with a data broker. I only want to share what I need to share with the data broker through the use of a browser, which is why I always recommend people need to work in incognito mode, whether you're on Safari or Chrome, which are the only two I recommend. Work in incognito mode, and then it'll still save passwords. It'll still give you access to links, but it blocks and it removes all of your search history.
And you know what, if you don't mind, can we focus on that? I was just talking to someone the other day who told me those are safer modes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking of 1,000 questions now, but they were saying those are safer modes to work in. So that is true, to work in those.
It stops. Yeah, the incognito mode stops your browser from saving your browsing history. Things like cookies and form data. Form data can be anything where you fill out a form I'd like to learn more about Lincoln. And cookies will be the tracking tools that are used by companies in order to track keystrokes, camera, microphone usage, and locations visited. With incognito mode, they can't track it. So the most secure browser for mainstream use is Safari on Apple. You can't hack it. Apple will not allow third parties to get access to Safari with incognito mode. And they've been trying to force that to happen.
So when people are going online, they should be using Safari more. I was just talking about this. Someone just told me use Safari more as far as if you're trying to keep your data private. Safari is a better search engine to be using.
Yeah, Safari is much better. I mean, you can use it even on a Windows device, but Safari is much better. Google Chrome is designed to add as many Chrome extensions, modes, data tracking, cookies, reminders, form fills, password saves. That's how Google was designed. That's how they differentiated from everyone else. And with that, it's more convenient. I don't have to remember passwords. I don't have to remember the location. What was the website that I went to? Oh, I can't remember Glenn's website. Let me just type in Glenn Sandifer. Oh, okay, glennsandifer.com. So it's easier. It's a quicker form fill. It's quicker to access information, and it's supposed to save you time. The reality is it's just creating a kind of it would be creating footprints on how you're moving through the internet. And then we're talking about this in the scope of a business owner. You're a business owner and you're using just a standard browser on a PC that you use for both personal and for business. You're setting yourself up for a challenge down the line if you don't protect your data and protect your activity.
Glenn, this is actually going into stuff that we didn't even get to go over, but now, again, so many questions are coming up, which is great. So, okay, so if a person really wants to protect their data, they come to Glenn Sandifer.
Come to Glenn Sandifer. Come to Glenn Sandifer. Glenn Sandifer Consulting. We'll get you set up. We'll take a look at your system, and then we'll make a recommendation. And if someone doesn't want to go with me because they want to go with someone who does it full time, I have recommendations of providers in every area.
And then, okay, so going back to this portion, so I was just sharing with someone, like I mentioned to you, that they were saying that if you use a Firefox or a Mozilla, those systems give you more protection. So I think keeping that in mind, how are cookies a part of what take away from the protection of the individual who's surfing the net?
How do they take away from the individual that's in the net?
How are they? What's the word? How are they less safe? How are they less safe? So when you see cookies,
yeah. Oh, so okay. So anytime we go to a new website, the first thing that pops up at the bottom or from the side is accept all cookies, accept necessary cookies, reject all. If you hit reject all on any website now, it doesn't give you access. Because at a minimum, cookies are kind of small text files on websites that are saved to your computer so that your computer doesn't have to do the research to remember your device login status and your browsing preferences. So cookies and the crumbs are just things that are left behind through your activity. And so then it makes it quicker for your RAM to find all of that information when you load and you log into a website. Does that make sense? So then it makes it so it's there are two versions. There's first and there's third party. So first party cookies are created on the site when you log in and you give permission to have access. Third parties are used by what we talked about with data brokers, where your information on this website goes to this third party to be used to track your activity across the web. In incognito mode on any browser, you can't find that. When you log out of,
I don't want to cut you off, but I'm going to kind of segue into this way. I don't think we as Black people, and I really being very frank, hear this information to know how to protect ourselves. And I think this is extremely important, don't you, Kat?
Yes, because we're not in the space. If we're in the technology space, we're kind of on the fringes. We're kind of doing what I've seen in my own role. So go back to security, take it outside of cyber and website. We're technicians, we're customer service reps, we're front office reps, we're coordinators. We don't start moving up. And when you move up, you have to learn this stuff. And so when I learn this stuff, I can have any conversation with the technician. I can have a conversation with an engineer. I can have a conversation with the client about what's going on in their system, but it takes time. And we don't really think about it because as a community, we have other things to worry about. So we just think, all right, I have my new iPhone, I'm safe. No, get on your iPhone, make sure that there's no tracking, make sure that your IP is switching. There are a number of different things that we could do a whole show for the audience on about things they would need to do things you can do on your iPhone today that will, and your Android, if you want to make sure.
Wait, don't just try to go.
Don't just throw that in there for the people.
You got to go back and say why you said that ill.
Because it's an Android. I'm not a 15-year-old girl. I don't need that. I don't need a phone that does all that.
So why is it bad? You got to explain that.
Just
slip that in.
I don't want green. I have a group of guys. We meet once a month. The name of the group is Too Many Samsung Phones, because everybody has it's like two of us that have iPhones. Everybody else has a Samsung. And I get green text. There are no bubbles. The text gets I don't like that. I like iPhone. What Apple has done very well, and what the transition from Steve Jobs to Tim Cook has been marketing, innovation, operational excellence through delivery models, and expansion of the ecosystem. By the time Apple gets something, it's secure and works. Android test everything that will be on an iPhone 2-3 years later. So you go through, you don't need a VPN on an iPhone. You need a VPN on an Android phone. Just like you used to need antivirus protection and everything on Windows PC and Windows tablets when those were coming out. You still need to make sure that you have some type of VPN on your Android. Your Android is not as secure as an iPhone. It's that simple, and the ecosystem just works. If it's on an iPhone, if it's on a MacBook or an iPad, it is designed specifically for that in use with the security protocols in place that Apple has established.
And you know what? We got to make this a regular segment or something, because you're teaching me so much today. And Glenn,
sure.
real talk. We had a couple of different areas we were trying to touch on, but you're touching on so many fascinating areas that I don't think we as novice persons dealing with this, we've had these as questions, but I don't think we knew how to formulate some of these questions. So you're addressing a great deal of that. So, okay. So Andrew, ill.
Android is ill.
So now I know a number of people get very upset with the automatic updates with Apple phones, though. And I've heard some people say it's better to have the Androids and some of the other phones.
Yeah. Android, you can reject. Yeah, Android, you can reject all of the updates. Apple, you cannot. Apple will eventually shut down the feature and shut down your screen. I need you to do this update. Now you can sign up for beta updates, which I have, which allows me to kind of get a glimpse into what the update will fix. But most of the time
What's
it
beta
is
updates? What are beta updates?
beta updates are just updates that are pre-market. So a beta update is something that comes out for a small select group. You can opt into it as Apple. So Apple will say, hey, we have this new update we want to test out to fix the switching of the lens from forward camera to rear camera. Would you like to test this out? Because there's a known problem with it. So you sign up for it, you go in, and then you see the switching, and it may be delayed. So instead of moving like that, it may move like that on the camera. And so on your FaceTime, you're like, okay, this isn't as robust, or it could be something as the microphone is having an issue when you're on speaker mode. There have been complaints about that with iPhones over the past decade or so when you put a case on it. So they do beta updates to fix it. And then as a part of the larger update, all of those things have been tested, validated, and then they become a part of that new update that everyone has to sign up for. But beta updates are a smaller group. So if we're talking about 500 million iPhone users, probably no more than 5 million people are signed up for it at a given time.
Glenn, it's still staying in line with this. I want to figure out this kind of thing. It's really pressing upon me that novice users to this information, where can they go to learn some of this stuff? Or is it just contacting a person like yourself for your organization? Because a lot of information you're giving out today is, again, extremely useful. And I don't think a number of people understand some of the repercussions of not having this information.
I'll give you an example of what happened with the client. So part of GFC is fractional consulting services. So a small business owner can come to me and say, Glenn, I have a problem. I need it solved before the end of the year. Great. Let me look at it. Let me see what's going on. Let me put together a package and a program. 90 days, we'll have it fixed. Well, if I'm doing something as simple as standing up an inside sales team, there are things that haven't even been considered. You have a website. Let me see the security protocols for your website. Those are lacking. So then the scope of the agreement increases to where it's like, all right, as a part of this, I'm going to have to validate the SSL restrictions that are around your website. I'm going to have to go in and I'm going to have to make updates. You're out of compliance for do not contact, canned spam, everything like those things. And also you don't have T's and C's on your website. We don't. So when you ask someone to fill out a form, you have to give the T's and C's somewhere on your website so that they know what's happening with the data. And typically the government requires us to keep it for 6 years. That's a different scope than standing up an inside sales team. People think that I just put someone in a desk on the phone, give them an Excel spreadsheet and tell them to call. You can't do that. You have to have consent, or you have to show that prove that there was a prior relationship in order to pick up the phone in the US and start making dials. You just have to do that. And so the scope then becomes around what is the entire technology stack in order to do that. How does that technology stack fit into your current business offering? And what are the security protocols for each of those pieces of technology stack? And how does it remain in compliance? So a 90-day engagement of standing up an inside sales team can be 18 months of getting the technology together and getting the compliance in order so that a small business who wants to go to 50 million, they're not hit with a $10 million lawsuit down the line because they just didn't do something correctly. And so that's what we typically find as the biggest opportunity, and how I have found my end leveraging my technology background and my understanding of each of these different areas in current client relationships. I haven't had the privilege of just working with someone just straight on technology. Absolutely not. Unless we're deploying cameras or deploying access control or just doing a cybersecurity solution, the cybersecurity and the VPN always comes after we have an initial discussion about we'd like to stand up a client success or an inside sales team.
Oh my gosh. You know what, Glenn, I'm getting this idea that you and I need to be doing this like twice a month or something, just Black nerds for computers.
Black nerds for computers. Let's go. It'll be fun.
Because I really had this whole other area, but all of this has been extremely
You can
useful.
still go
And
there.
I think the audience is still really important. A lot of the information you're giving out is really important, and it's become even more valuable than I anticipated. But you were saying, I'm sorry, I can still go.
No, I'm saying we can still go in the direction that we talked about in our pre-show, if you'd like.
Sure,
but I can stay on this topic if you think it's valuable to the audience.
I just found it so useful. Yes. So let's go back. Let's definitely go back. What created your interest in technology like this? Well, you mentioned some of that, but let's go back to that.
But yeah, it was how I got into technology was kind of what we talked about. I always had a passion for it. I originally wanted to, I thought I was going to be a video game designer. But at that time, that wasn't a job. That wasn't something that we as Black people were even exposed to. We may have had Atari and Nintendo and Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, but we weren't exposed to what does it mean to create this game? What's the technology behind it? And so I was a part of a number of different programs through middle and high school. And then I found my passion with what I talked about with QSR and wanting to be an owner operator of that. But it was always lingering. And so even with the roles that I've had, whether it's been a technician or a sales rep or running a contract program for sales in the security space, it's always been self-taught that I had to understand what I was pitching, because in order to be the best version of the sales rep, you have to understand the problem that your prospect or client has. If you don't understand the problem, you can't offer a solution. You can't quota chase your way to your quota. You actually have to solve problems for people, and they reward you with profitability. And so that, it's, as I was a technician, which I was awful at, but I was great at selling in the home and selling in the business. I had to learn how the protocol for a Cat4 cable would integrate into the modem. I needed to know the distance between the modem and the camera in order to ensure that we had 1 gig of data that was available to make sure we had a continuous loop. That was something that was self-taught. Wasn't trained, because we're talking 2000s and 2010s, but no training. They throw you on a truck and say, go out there and figure it out, or they put you with someone for a couple of days. So I think it was all self-taught. So there is a subculture within Black culture of technology.
It really
most people look past it. That's not what's highlighted in media. That's not what's highlighted on social. That's not what's highlighted as opportunities. The things that are highlighted are the things that we know about, that I've talked about: politicians, preachers, athletes, entertainers. And then we've broken into doctors, lawyers, business people, teachers, principals, counselors, coaches. So, but the technology piece, I can count on one hand the number of 5 Black males that I know that are executives in security today with large scale companies. 5. One hand. And then when you start adding and expanding the definition to include Blacks and women, now I'm on 2 hands. And then when you start expanding it to people of color, including Blacks, it's less than 100. But there is such a great opportunity and demand for the needs of security that it's a really lucrative field to get into once you understand it.
And this is what we were talking about. And I don't know that we as people of color really understand that it is a lucrative field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I paid for my portion of the wedding by being a technician and selling. I didn't get it. But people have seen the pictures online. We were at the State House. That thing was not cheap. I handed my wife a check and was like, here you go. Here's my portion. What's this? Installs.
Oh man. So this so I really I really wanted
He's gone, guys. I got him.
I really wanted people of color to be able to understand that the lucrative nature of this field
Hmm.
because like I said, there were so many different rabbit holes we could have gone down that you were giving a wealth of information that I think are really important. And I don't know that we really delve into the importance of some of the protectionary stuff, talking to a securities consultant
Hmm.
like yourself, being able to understand how important these issues are in the technological age where privacy is becoming such an issue.
Hmm.
And I think this is an important area for people of color to go into this field and be able to explore this so we can know this and understand this. Now, in on your journey, what was the first step in securities understanding that you took as far as education?
As far as education for security, it was self-taught. So the brand I was selling, the main competitor at that time was ADT, and what I call is local guy number five. In every market in the US,
Local guy.
local guy number five. In every city in the US, there's a guy who has a truck. He's running two or three trucks. He has a low voltage license, an electrician's license, HVAC or plumbing. He's selling security services as well. And he sells that monitoring for that business off to a large monitoring center, and he takes a portion of the revenue. That's how his business is. And what we're finding, as I talked about earlier in the conversation, that the small guy is starting to win and small business is starting to win. He is now starting to systematize for scale. So what I learned was that piece. For the product we were selling, the number one competitor wasn't an ADT, it was local guy number five. And the top four, and those four guys were really aggressive because they were running multiple trucks, same day install, same day service. They had the best price because they were able to do local pricing. And they were local and ingrained into the community. So I had to overcome all of that before I could solve a problem. And so learning how the competitors went to market helped teach me how we went to market. And I just expanded on everything from low voltage to electrical to plumbing to HVAC, which are all kind of integrated within the home and a commercial space. You need all of those things. And then you just kind of expand off. And then you can learn about different brands. Some the top brands for security right now for intrusion are going to be Honeywell, going to be Bosch, Linnell, S2, um, Sonatrol, Pi Barker, Corsair for fire. So all these different brands have different protocols, and they serve different Baronet. They all serve different functions, and they target different type of verticals or industries. And so once you kind of understand that and you get into a space with a client, I was like, okay, you're a retail location with 15 doors, you're going to do a Bosch system because I can expand that as your business continues to expand. You're an Amazon facility. I want to make sure that I put brand X in there because this brand is going to work for the expansion and for the fact that you're running a 24-hour shift. And then once you kind of learn that, it's easy to sell because then I'm not selling the widget. I'm not selling an iPhone. I'm selling the solution and the functionality that the end user really needs. So it's all self-taught. And I tell young men specifically all the time, if they want to get in, if they want to change their trajectory, quit what they're doing, go find a sales job for a brand or a business that you like, learn as much as you can on your own, let them train you, get with the top salesperson, and in a year, your life will be different. You'll go from making $50,000 a year selling to now making 100,000. And then most sales professionals, if they're top quota earners, if they're 89% to 200% to plan, they can earn anywhere between 180,000 to $400,000 a year.
No, is that
And
just because of their knowledge, or is it also because of personality?
it's knowledge. Don't let personality fool you because the top salespeople, if there are four archetypes for personality, all four of them have been top sales producers in different industries. In our industry in security, there are people who are multimillionaires off of selling and you wouldn't know it because they're such small personalities. But when they get into a room, they can engineer any solution with the best of the engineers that we have or engineers that have come from MIT because they understand the intricacies of how the business is run and how the system works. And that gets rewarded in our industry for most individuals.
So this is really this you know you actually touch on something that's actually somewhat unique in this sense. This really is an experience based reward
Hmm.
system. You really must know have the experience and the knowledge information to make that money. So personality based sales tends to be your personality where you can make a good living, but this is more information based, your
Yeah,
expertise and
it's information based. I mean, any in sales, any personality can win. Don't Most people say that the IA or the DI personality, if you're looking at a disc scale, are the top sales professionals. Yeah, they're typically the most, but they're not the top because an SI or a CS or an SC can also be very successful because of the things that they're best at also support the function of sales. And it's just, I've had the privilege of leading a sales team where I've had every disc profile at one time under my roof and under my management. And it was a nightmare for me to manage, but I knew how to manage all of them because I understood what their motivations were and I understood what their styles were, their sales styles. And I didn't ask everyone, if you do something as simple, hey, let's go ahead and role play. Your personality, you're not going to be good at role play. So I may say, hey, let's start with how are we going to put together a system? Walk me through your process when you walk through the business. You walk through the business, you tell me that, we go back to the table. All right, how would you pitch this to me? Still role play, but it's a different way of getting it. And then for the other person, it's like, all right, let's go ahead. We'll deal with the system as a home. What are you going to start with? I'm going to start with understanding why I'm here. Seth, all right, thank you for taking the time today. I know you only got an hour, so I really want to understand a little bit more about what it is you need from us from a security standpoint. I also want to understand and make sure that we're going to be a perfect fit. We're not a perfect fit for everyone, and that's okay. So at the end of the hour, we can have more questions and have further discovery, or we can walk away as friends. How's that sound? Great. Go through it. Tell me your problem. My problem is I have 100 people that come in. I got all these doors. I got 50 set of keys. Okay. And how much time do you spend dealing with that each week? Probably spend 10 hours dealing with access to the facilities and access to each of the doors and who has the right access. There are plenty of times where we have deliveries and deliveries are not being managed and inventoried correctly because they're sitting on a pallet and that's creating stress. And then I have these cameras in the back, but the cameras don't really show me the areas that I want. So you have a piecemeal security solution. It's not fully integrated. Yes. Okay. And how frustrating is that for you? Very frustrating. Okay. How long have you been dealing with this? I've been dealing with this for the last 2.5 years since I took this role over, and I can't get anyone to understand. Okay. So what I hear is recap. And then after the recap, you go into kind of who we are and what we do. We've worked with companies just like yours, Seth. So I'm gonna come in and I've talked to security professionals who are running the location, new on the job, and they realize that they have a storm that has to be cleaned up. I'm good. And the good thing about us is that's something that we can help manage through with you. So a little bit more about me, little room, my team, what I do, why it works. I think the best next step is kind of just talk through and see the locations that are concerns for you. I'd like to observe. So walk around and observe. That hour meeting now becomes 3, order lunch, have lunch, go over the program. And then at the end of a 4-hour period, you may have a proposal in front of them. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but that's what ADT does. That's what local guy number 5 does. And they're all successful. Sometimes you got to take time, but that example right there is sales. It wasn't pushy. I didn't talk about my quota. No one cares. No one cares about my quota. No one cares about the nut that I have to crack in my home. No one cares about the fact I want a boat or a new lake house. But they want to know that I care about their solution, which I do. And that's why I say to young men, you have to care about the people. You have to like what you're selling and believe in what you're selling. Don't tell me you want to sell shipping solutions with FedEx and you don't like FedEx. You don't believe in FedEx's mission. You're wasting everyone's time. There are plenty of other companies that would love to have you.
No, tell me something. How would you propose this to a young person, a young male of color, that this is a good career choice? Because I hear this is a good option. How would you say this is a field you should check into?
Yeah, I mean,
and this is real quick. This is for our CEOs and entrepreneurs because again, the wealth of knowledge that you share today is even more than we did in our pre-interview, and I'm just so grateful. So I want to know, for young people who are coming up, how do you approach them that this is a lucrative industry?
There are thousands. If I did a quick search right now, there are probably 20,000 open security roles, not C-suite, not senior leader. The roles are typically field technicians, systems engineers, installation specialists, fire specialists, access specialists, sales rep, account executive. You want executive because it has commission, not a manager. Manager has a bonus, which is different. And in a 3-year period, you can accelerate your expertise. Let's just say that the number that I said is the industry cannot operate without technicians and sales reps. It can operate without every other role. Cannot operate without technicians, sales reps, and then when you add the third being guards. So those 3 roles you have to have in order to stand up a security business. And if you're someone that's young, give me another industry that says that. Teachers, okay, firefighters, law enforcement, so police officers, military. You have to be able to have that in place or it doesn't work, because going back to the discussion with AI, I can't AI my way out of that. Can't AI my way out of having a guard sit and sign people into the Bridgestone Center. I can't AI my way out of an installation or a service call for a very complex wire run in a building that has concrete and concrete floors and concrete walls. I can't AI my way out of sitting across the table face to face to understand what the needs are, because I will then just sell a solution that fits my needs and it doesn't necessarily fit the client need. So young people who are listening, see, I know this is targeting CEOs and entrepreneurs, but just think about
but
the
also,
CEO.
But in addition, it is also targeting young men of color. Why your journey in particular is so inspirational. And I want them to look at you and I want them to be able to see that, because again, I'm a little bit older than you, but I think as young Black men, they don't see this as a field they can go into, and they don't see the lucrative nature of it. But the wealth of knowledge that you share today, I completely see it as a field that we should be encouraging young men of color to get into, because there's a great deal of information, not only that, but there's also a great career to be made out of this field.
Yeah, you could. And, you know, if you look at other fields, you have to continue to go up. You don't. I know technicians that make $150 an hour. Now, that is also kind of follows my passion and belief that for young men and men of color in general, we should be looking more towards the trades, because the trade sector, you can't outsource that. I have a problem with my toilet. I want someone here, and if he tells me $600, I'm paying it that day because I need the toilet working. If I have a plumbing issue upstairs, if I have an HVAC issue and I don't have cool air and it's 107 degrees, I'm paying whatever they say pay, because I need that solution fixed right now. And that's never going away in our society. You're always going to need those people. We're not always going to need lead qualifiers. We're not always going to lead lawyers and marketers. We're not always going to lead coordinators and schedulers, but you will always need people to put hands to keys and hands to product in order to alleviate situations. That type of understanding helps you make those decisions. And then when you start knowing that, all right, I'm a Black male, and now I'm in plumbing, and I'm making $58 an hour, and I'm plus overtime, plus time and a half, plus double time on the holidays when I work. I'm literally making $200,000 a year on a truck. I'm home by 6 o'clock every day. I may start at 6 a.m. to get there, get to the location, check in with the guys. I'm on a truck by myself all day. I can be with my thoughts, listen to my podcast or my sermon, and then I can get into the location and I can meet the need of the client there. I could do 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs a day, and then I'm done by 6. And I make $200,000 a year. I'm home for my family. I don't have to answer an email. I don't have to answer a phone call. I don't have to do a Teams chat to check in. I can do the work that I do in the home and then leave. Do the work that I need to do in the business and then follow up with them in a week or so. And I think that as black men, we've been trying to go corporate, and we've missed this opportunity with trades. And
so
now,
much so, so much so that
yeah, and the trades have been sitting there wanting. They don't care who you are. They just need someone who's going to show up on time and someone who's going to represent their brand pretty well. And again, local guy number 5 is where you would typically start, because they're going to be able to take the risk and make the investment that you need in order to learn the things that we've talked about on this call today, so that you can be really dangerous at the end of a 3 to 5 year period.
I got to tell you, Glenn, I just was expecting this great conversation, didn't expect it to take the directions and dimensions that it's taken. And I really would like us to keep something on a regular basis, because I think it's very useful. There's even more depth. Oh my gosh, there's so much more depth than I even imagined that we'd be able to get into, that I think is very useful to not only my audience, but your audience. And I hope that we can continue to build upon this, because I thought this was extremely more useful, aside from the last we had pre-interview, because you are funny. I didn't even get to tell people about how you sing really well and how you be having me cracking up. But the information resource that you made yourself available to, I just really feel like there's something ongoing that I think can be very useful in the changing job market. I'd like us to be able to continue this conversation.
Yes, I'm open. Yes, Seth, I'm open to spend any time that you would like to further the conversation and make it a regular segment. Y'all know that Seth is blowing up too. Like, don't let his humility fool you. He's like that. He's got that Kev on stage journey that's going on, where it's going to be like, you see him, and boom. That's where they're going. So y'all stay tuned.
With your help, dude. Oh, I gotta tell you, Glenn. Again, we had our side conversation, but this has taken such a different turn, and I'm so blessed that it was on air. That it was. I'm very much about the organic nature of this, and aside from the natural humor and incredible intelligence that you have, this has been really one of my favorite. I've had some incredible guests, but I got to tell you, Kat, this has been one of my favorite ever. And I just didn't expect it to take this turn. And I'm so glad that some of my chicks and dudes that are going to see this are going to see, like, this is Black nerd territory, dude, stuff where I just had the fun that I didn't even expect to go this way. And I'm just so pleased and feel so blessed that we were able to go in this direction and have this experience.
I am too. This has been a pleasure on my side too.
Oh, Seth. Dude, totally. It really was. So so for the audience, when we hang up this portion of it, I will be talking to Glenn about us making this semi-regular and seeing about his time, because he is a busy man. But Glenn, you know what? Please, and I'm going to put this in our description of this video. Please let people know where they can contact you. I think it's extremely important, because I know with the amount of questions I had myself, and then for some of the people who will be listening to this, I want them to be able to contact you with questions and or insights that you might have, and to those who might be interested in this field. Where can they reach you at?
Yeah, so there are a number of places that we can be reached at. I mean, the first would be our website. I actually share it at this portion, glennsandifer.com. It is where all of the fractional opportunities are. If you're someone who runs a business and you are interested in fractional consulting, someone to come in, do the work, and then stand up the project and then hand it off to a business, glennsandifer.com. And then from a book standpoint, if you're someone and you're like, hey, I'd like to get this guy on a podcast, there's also a link there under our contact to get in touch with us for TMG Book Series. Our website is TMG Book Series, but that is also the handle for Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. There you'll find all the episodes of TMG Reacts and now TMG Live. And then as we move into more of the business side for more discussions like this, those posts and links will be available on our website as well.
Fantastic. And Glenn, thank you also. We are blowing up. Makersbar is definitely blowing up, but it really is thanks to cats like you. I really so appreciate you, bro. Again, I'm going to flip over myself with the amount of insight that you gave and the excitement that it really gave. And so I did behave myself, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit
He
more
did.
because Glenn did have me laughing, and I was a little concerned that I was not going to be able to control some of the laughter because he is funny. And so I just got to say how incredible it was. I am extremely honored and pleased that you joined us here today. And I meant exactly what I was said. We're going to talk after this. I want to be able to encourage young men of color and young women of color as well. You know, we are approaching a fast technological age that's coming upon us. And the fear is that our jobs are not secure. But what I'm hearing from Glenn today is that our jobs have security. It just depends on the direction that we take in understanding new information and technological information. With that in mind, there is still a revolution that's coming. And a part of that revolution that's coming is the love that we put into it. So at the end of each broadcast, I do say the revolution that we want is with love, the love-volution. Go out and create a revolution of love. And with that in mind are cats like this. Glenn Sandifer, thank you so much for being on the Seth Garu podcast, and not just for today, but I'm looking forward to our continued efforts to educate people as far as this industry and what you do and offering your services to people.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Seth, and thank you to the audience for the time. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. And as Glenn has told you that we are blowing up Makers Bar, and not only Makers Bar, but my show itself. We're going in a new direction, so you'll be seeing some new updates as far as where we're going and heading. And we're extremely pleased to have guests like Glenn that are helping us get to that level. So Glenn, again, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to our conversations in the future. Next month, I'm already prophesying. No, not even prophesying. I'm just already solidifying. I'm already solidifying that we're going to be talking every second Monday of every month.
Sounds good. I love it.
So now that's where I'm crossing my fingers that after we hang up, that Glenn will be able to say, yeah, we'll do it, dude.
We'll do it. I'm telling your audience now, declaration. We're going to declare it. There it is.
Yeah, fantastic. Glenn, thank you very much. Audience, thank you so much for going out and spreading love today. Love-volution that we want is happening right now. Peace and be good to each other, and know that today is a good day to touch grass and share the love that we have for each and every one of ourselves, and knowing that we are growing and evolving, and we as a people, we're at the next level. Glenn is an example of that. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, audience. We'll see you next time.